Welcome to the Explainer. So today, we're tackling a genuinely massive roadblock for mid-career professionals, project leads, and business analysts out there in New Zealand and Australia. Look, you've already moved past basic prompting, right? You're ready to build actual real internal software, things like calculators, client portals, reporting dashboards, but almost immediately you hit a wall. You get completely stuck in this decision friction when trying to choose the right AI coding environment. And honestly, picking the wrong tool for your task, it doesn't just slow you down, it creates intense, pull-your-hair-out frustration. So we're going to break down the mechanics and the trade-offs of the top tools to completely eliminate that friction for you. Okay, let's dive into this, because you have probably heard some seriously conflicting advice on this topic. On one side, people absolutely insist you've got to use Cursor because, well, it feels like a familiar, sleek desktop application, with point-and-click panels. But then on the other side, you're told, no, install Claude Code, which actually operates entirely as an autonomous agent, just hidden away inside your command line terminal. And trying to pick between them without understanding how they actually work, that is exactly what leads to that massive setup frustration.
So the very first thing to understand here is that these tools are not mutually exclusive competitors. They actually operate on completely different interface philosophies, designed for completely different ways of working. Think of it kind of like this. Cursor is basically like having an expert assistant sitting right next to you, holding a pencil, just waiting for you to point at a specific sentence on a piece of paper so they can rewrite it. Claude Code, however, is more like handing a comprehensive briefing document to a project lead who just walks away, builds the whole prototype, and comes back with a fully working system.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is seeing that Cursor's absolute superpower is visual precision. Because it's built as a fork of Visual Studio Code, which is the editor millions of developers already use, it just feels like a standard desktop app. You can literally highlight a specific block of code, press Command-K, and just type your instructions in plain English. Cursor then gives you this great side-by-side diff preview, so it shows exactly what text will be added or removed before you accept anything. That tight visual feedback loop provides a tremendous sense of safety and fine control, which is incredibly useful for targeted edits and those little micro-adjustments.
But if we shift our focus over to Claude Code, the whole paradigm flips completely. It lives directly inside your system terminal command line, so you won't see any open file tabs and you won't see any visual chat panels. Instead, it reads your entire repository context simultaneously. It doesn't sit around waiting for you to open individual files or highlight specific code blocks. You just hand it your broad, high-level project instructions and it gets straight to work. And because of this incredibly deep repository access, Claude Code delivers real autonomous agency. It completely outpaces visual editors when it comes to building brand new applications from scratch or when you're executing massive multi-file refactors. Say you need to change how user permissions work across an entire tool. Claude Code will scan all the relevant files, track exactly how the data flows between them, update your backend database schema, and fix the front-end forms, literally all in one coordinated simultaneous sweep. It essentially does all that tedious multi-file hunting that usually just ruins your Friday afternoon.
Let's actually ground this in a real-world workplace example. Imagine a senior business analyst at a logistics company in Auckland, right? And they need to build an internal freight calculation tool by Monday. If they were to start this project in Cursor, they'd have to manually set up the folders, create individual files for the database in the front end, and then prompt the AI for each component separately. It's a lot of steps. But if they start in Claude Code, they simply type a single prompt right into the terminal. In a matter of minutes, Claude Code automatically creates the folder structure, generates the calculation logic, sets up the database connections, and delivers a running baseline application. It's a real game changer.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly how you should choose between them. It all comes down to eliminating setup friction based on 3 key factors. If you're looking at your project age and you're starting from an empty folder, definitely choose Claude Code for scaffolding. If you're working on an already established code base, that's when you lean on Cursor. When assessing change depth, so minor edits to 1 or 2 files, that means Cursor. Structural, multi-file backend changes, that means Claude Code. And finally, for visual needs, like polishing the UI and making sure your buttons are perfectly aligned, Cursor is absolutely your go-to. Let's move to and see how this builds into an actual action plan. Because the most effective builders, especially those coming from non-developer backgrounds, they don't just pick one tool forever. They use a hybrid workflow. Here's the playbook. Step 1. Scaffold the foundation in Claude Code. Let it do the heavy lifting to build the initial structure and logic. Step 2. Once that foundation is up and running, you open that exact same project folder over in Cursor to polish the UI details and make those fine visual adjustments. And step 3, which is totally non-negotiable, enforce strict human review across the board. So the crucial point is this. Regardless of how autonomous or visually intuitive these AI tools are, you simply cannot skip governance. You must maintain strict human boundaries. Every single output needs to be tested manually by you. You have to check your database permissions, ensure sensitive client data is fully protected, and verify that your API credentials are secure before you deploy any code. You've got to keep everything in line with organizational data governance and national frameworks like the New Zealand Responsible AI Guidance.
To wrap things up, remember that Claude Code and Cursor are complementary tools. They are not mutually exclusive choices. By matching the tool interface to the scope of your change, you can completely eliminate building friction. You now have the framework to stop debating tools and start turning your ideas into working software and do it fast. So I'll leave you with this final thought. Grab this hybrid workflow, pick a small project to start on today, and ask yourself, what will you build by Monday?